You have the invocation and moment of silence.
As we gather here tonight as members of the Enfield Board of Education, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our continuing service to our fellow citizens and to our students, faculty, and staff of the Enfield schools. Keeping in mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make Enfield better for years to come. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Cruzel. In the event of an emergency, emergency exits are located to the rear of the chamber. They are also located to the left of the chamber. Please proceed down the stairs and out to the parking lot. Kathy, roll call, please.
Mr. Cruzel?
Here.
Mr. Peabody?
Present.
Mrs. Ungary?
Here.
Mr. Ludwig?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc? Mr. Neville?
Here.
Mrs. Thurston? Mr. Grady? Chairman Serrard?
Here. Please note that the Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Dresdick, will be filling in for the superintendent. So, Mr. Deputy Superintendent, do you have any board guests?
There are no board guests this evening.
Thank you. Superintendent's report. Go ahead, Mr. Dresdick.
Thank you. We'll refer to as the understudy report. You'll notice in your packet that you have a report from both student representatives regarding events happening at their respective high schools, and we're fortunate enough to have both representatives here. So, if any would like to add anything, Mr. Chairman, I usually allow you to select which one goes first.
Very good. Go ahead. Enfield.
All right, it's a new semester, which is new classes, sports, and activities. And the one main thing that I've noticed throughout the school is tension between the students. And I think it has to do with it being towards the middle of the year and after exams ending. And it's between students with other students and students with faculty members. And I know in the beginning of the year, Rachel's Challenge has this activity that lasts throughout the whole day. And students that show excellent leadership qualities are selected to participate in this event. And it's all about relationships and bonding. And I think that an event similar to that one is necessary to bring some sort of harmony back into the school where everyone is allowed to participate in it rather than just students that show really good leadership qualities. There are activities such as icebreakers and sharing personal stories with each other, and I think that to meld everyone back into this friendship that Enfield High has always had, we need something to break the ice again.
Thank you, Enfield. Fermi.
All right. Coming back from midterms, it's starting up the second half of the year, and everyone's getting a fresh start. You know, new classes, like Caitlin said, after 2 very unexpected snow days. But I think everyone's back on track, and it's exciting because it's getting closer and closer to graduation. So, I think there's more information in your packets about it, but everyone's invited to the Enfield Heritage Fair at JFK on Saturday, February 20th. They'll be selling food, and it sounds really interesting, and there's like a lot of things like learning what goes on in the teepee and everything, like back when Enfield was really old, and they, what was I going to say? A lot of the NHS students at Fermi will be running the booths and helping out with setup and takedown, so that's good. And also, I see he had a packet or a flyer, and it talked about Buzz's Pasta Dinner. Yeah, Pasta Supper on Thursday, March 3rd. It's a little while in the future, but from 5 to 8 p.m. I have tickets here, actually, and they're $10 for adults, $8 for seniors and children. And basically, it's a fundraiser for all the kids at Buzz, because we do, every year we go to St. Louis, and we have to pay for our flights and hotel, and so it really helps out with a lot of that. And oh yeah, it's at St. Bernard's Church, right? That's every year, and that's it. Everyone's invited. I have tickets here. I have to leave, but you can also get tickets at the door too. So that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Mr. Drezek, I have a question.
Certainly.
What is the status of the lifts over at the new high school?
Certainly. I received an email earlier this week from Mr. Shamas from Gilbane with an update that it appears that the lifts were due to be on site on Monday, but has been pushed back to Wednesday of this week, and I state it's on or around Wednesday of this week. In lieu of Monday, and they're going to expedite it as quickly as they can, so we'll keep a close eye on it tomorrow, obviously being Wednesday, and we'll get an update out to the board as soon as they arrive and are ready to go.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Drezek. Audiences, do we have any board audiences today? Jim Staley.
We use a microphone, or I've got a very loud voice
Go
anyway.
ahead and have a seat.
Okay.
Please say your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments down to about 5 minutes.
My name's Jim Staley, 21 Windmill Road here in Enfield. I'm a retired electrical engineer, and for about the last 8 years, I have been voluntary math tutoring at Enfield High School. And in that time, I've seen several things that I think more discipline needs to be brought into the school. I talked to the teachers, I talked to the guidance counselors. One of the things that bothers me is the use of the cell phones or music players of whatever type. They use them during classes. I see them in there. They're in use constantly. Not everybody, but there is a significant number. And I don't understand why that's allowed. Cell phones are allowed in the schools, particularly why they should even be on. Second thing is students that wander in the halls during, in between, or during class time. I see that regularly, and there's also students that arrive late at class. It's only a 45-minute class that they have. You lose 5 minutes there, another couple of minutes taking attendance, pretty soon no teaching time left. That bothers me. A general lack of discipline in a number of students. I have personally seen many incidents of swearing in the hallways. I've seen a lot of boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, public displays of affection going on. I also know of detentions that were handed out. The student never even bothered to show up to serve their detention. Fourth item I have is dress code. I see a number of students in there that I am shocked, actually, by what is being worn. And that bothers me that it's not appropriate for an educational environment. The last item I have, students that arrive at school late or leave early or leave for lunch. I don't understand, it's only a 20-minute or so lunch period, how a student can leave and be back in time for class. And that's happening regularly. Students that order pizza to be delivered to the school. I also had a student that came to me for tutor, or was referred to me for tutoring for period 7. Never did come, and the reason was apparently he had a job, but he was failing math and is at very much risk for flunking out of school, not being able to graduate. Why he is allowed to have a job to leave school when he's flunking? To me, if that's going to be an opportunity for students, it should be an earned privilege, not just something given to everyone. And what really concerns me is with Fermi going to be moving into the school, into Enfield High, next year, I believe it is, that the number of students is going to double. It's not going to be double the problems. It's probably going to be more than double the problems. From a math background, that I would say it's going to be 4 times the problems there. And what I really wanted to bring out is that without appropriate discipline, the school in certain cases is serving nothing more than a babysitting service. And in that regard, it's wasting the teacher's time, it's wasting the student's time, and from a taxpayer viewpoint, it's wasting my tax money. So what I'd really like to see is that the code of conduct will be looked at, updated appropriately. It's got to make sure that the students have a copy of it, the parents of those students have a copy of it, and then it's got to be enforced. I don't know if any of the members here have regularly gone into the school and watched what's going on, but I tutor 2 days a week. I'm there today I was there for about 6 hours. I see a lot. So I'd ask that from the superintendent's office on down, principals, whatever the level of administration, we have to do something about it. We're not doing a good job for these kids. I see Dr. Jeff at the gym regularly every morning, so I have passed these comments on to him.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Staley. Vinnie?
Vinnie Westlisa, 12 Deer Run. As you know, I'm a opponent of being able to use Fermi as our middle school. And people want to have a decision in this process. And unfortunately, as you can see from the audience attendance, not all people are comfortable with coming to these meetings, speaking at them, and some don't have the time to come to these meetings. But they want a voice in this decision. So I decided to start a petition drive to find out what the feelings are of the community and what type of response I'd get by starting a petition drive to see who would come out and show support for keeping Fermi as a middle school. And the petition states as follows. It says, we, the undersigned electors of the town of Enfield, petition the town of Enfield to retain Enrico Fermi High School building located at 124 North Maple Street as a school to be repurposed as our middle school. And I know this petition has no binding properties to it at all. It's merely a show of support to something that a lot of people in the community feel is important. I had our first petition drive this weekend at North Thompsonville Fire Station, and I was kind of uncertain what the turnout would be. I wasn't sure if I was going to be sitting in a parking lot alone for 2 hours or people were actually going to show up and take the time to sign a petition. It is winter, cold out. But I got a very good response from the community. And I was kind of curious to see the age group of the people that actually came to sign a petition. It was all the way from seniors all the way to young families with children, and actually brought their children. They were elementary school grade children. And in some cases, I wish the Board of Ed was present there to hear some of the comments that I was getting from the parents, because when they sign, they also say, sometimes a little anecdote of why they're signing the petition. And I'm just going to run through a few of them. There's not many. Some are just not happy with the JFK facility itself. They feel the middle school environment can be improved by the use of Fermi. Some feel the decision was made a long time ago, and they're hoping that by signing a petition, it has an impact on the board's decision. And they wish there could be some sort of town vote that they can take part in. And one parent shared a story with me. It's a story about lunchtime, and their child goes to, I guess, has a class in the trailers just prior to lunchtime. And what she states that is when he has a class in the trailers before lunch, she has to make sure she packs a lunch for him because he doesn't have enough time to get to the cafeteria to get his lunch in time. And that's a concern. I think that's a big issue. We need to, one way or another, we need to either use Fermi as an upgrade to our middle school, or we need to seriously invest in how much we're spending at JFK and not just putting paint and wallpaper out there. We need to make an investment in that school and say it needs X amount to make this into a school facility that we could be proud of as a town. The time now is that we have a school that's vacant, that's going to be vacant, and it's a large facility. And I think we need to make every opportunity to look at that school to find out, can that fit our needs or not? And we need to take a serious look at it because I think we have a lot of opportunities, but we only have one opportunity. Once it's gone, it's kind of gone. And when you do something like a petition, it really gets the community involved in the decision-making process, and they want to be a part of the process. And as you know from the last two referendums, we didn't get a lot of support when it came to getting the energy referendum passed or the facilities referendum passed. They failed pretty heavily. And when you make the community part of the decision process, they're more apt to be able to support a referendum that comes out after the fact of saying, all right, you supported us doing X. Well, now it's time to fund X. And you would see that if you made them part of the process and they were part of the decision, that when it comes to funding, I think you're going to see a lot of support on these referendums that they had a part of deciding how the money was going to be spent to begin with, not just this is how we're going to spend it and we're looking to have money for it. I know there's going to be some discussion on community conversations coming up, and I guess they're scheduled for February 17th and the 24th. And I didn't see anything listed on ETV for these, and I think it'd be important that if it hasn't been requested at this point, if the board can request that ETV cover these events, because I think that the people that you don't see behind us are actually watching most of this on TV, and they'd like to be able to view the events that go on at the community conversations. And I'd like to thank the board for their time listening to me, and if anybody has more information, they can email me at keepfermi@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinnie. Mr. T. Katz.
Bob T. Katz, Thompsonville. I'm going to FOI this board to see the report from the building department on converting Fermi High to a middle school. Needs extensive work, and I just want to know what that building report says. That's your next step in doing this. You need to get that information, and then maybe you might have to go to planning and zoning. So who has that report? Have you got that report yet or requested it?
It's on the website, Bob.
What does it say? Did you go to the building department? That's my question.
Did I go to the building?
Let's stay in order. Parliamentary procedure, it's on the website.
It's on the website, Bob.
Reuse.
We'll
Well, I'd like a copy of it.
We'll let individual board members address your comments during board member
Well, that's
comments.
fine. But the thing is, do you realize there's no such thing as an advisory referendum in Enfield allowed by the charter? You have to go off a referendum. Fermi, you're going to have to bring it up to code on disability, and there's other factors involved, electrical, heating, air conditioning. It's going to have to, you got a 45-year-old building that needs an extensive amount of work. And if you want to spend $30 million to do it, the public's not going to do it. We gave away as Nuntuck. That was the better school of the two. We should have gave away JFK. But JFK should stay as a middle school. Mr. Neville, absolutely. And I think you should be fighting for that. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to sign a petition. I think we're making a huge mistake. We're spending more money than we need to. We got extensive amount of empty seats in the elementary schools. You should talk about closing one elementary school for now and maybe a second one about 5 years from now. The population's going down, businesses are moving out, the mall's in trouble. You have to cut back the spending. The school board should be level funded this year and next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tighetz. Any other audiences? Ms. Davis, come on up.
Good evening. My name's Elizabeth Davis. I reside at 201 North Maple Street. I did want to say thank you to Dr. Schuman making the call about the weather. I know he took a hit on it, central office, whoever made the call. But thank you all, because it's easier that he takes the blows from parents than we have a fatal accident that we can't fix afterwards. So I did want to say thank you very much for making those hard decisions. On the note of, I am for the petition to let people's voices be heard on the JFK or Fermi for the middle school. I mean, that's the point, that we live here, we all reside here, we all pay taxes. Half of us kids in the schools and not. No matter what, we're going to spend money, tax-paying money, on Fermi Building. This community center, it's almost $30 million. So the point is, do we put $30 million, have the state-of-the-art junior high school, or not? But the one thing that ups our home values in town is having a state-of-the-art education. No matter what else, our roads, this and that, it's not going to compare. You have the best education, that is what ups our home values. When you up the home values, you have more revenue coming in, which then gives us more to put in the education, even enhance it even more. So I did want to just throw that out. On another note, I'm still concerned about the issue with Prudence Crandall. I know air quality tests came back that it was fine, but running fans prior I don't agree with. And then pictures were sent showing the mold on the doors 2 weeks after that air quality test. So those were submitted, and they came back from the town saying that it was rust on the doors. Well, I know the difference from rust and mold, you know. No, it wasn't. And they constantly keep cleaning the doors to try to cover it. So I'm hoping we're doing something right to make sure the school is in the right quality we need it is for our kids, and nevertheless for the staff that will be there 10, 15 years. And if they're breathing this stuff in, you imagine the damage on them and prior students that were there from K through 6. So I'm just hoping we continue to look into that, since it is built on a stream and it's had major issues. That's why we had the AC installed in it. But the neglect to our school buildings aren't helping, and that's why when it rains a lot, you have puddles down the hallways left and right. Well, that moisture then builds up, and it builds even more issues in mold. So I'm just hoping we just don't put that on the back burner. We keep it up front and take care of it the right way. And then to remind, yes, the Heritage Fair, 20 February, and also it's a great event. It brings, we have such a wide culture in our town. What a way to celebrate and bring us all together and be proud of our heritage. And if anybody has a heritage that they'll still like to set up a table and be proud and display it, like the chair, we'd appreciate it very much, since we've already had this conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Any other audiences? Any other audiences? Any other audiences? Sensing none, moving on. Board member comments. Mr. Cruzel.
Just one, I attended the Fort Chaplain Mass over the weekend, and just wanted to point it out that if anyone's interested, that's a yearly thing that goes on at St. Patrick's Church, and it's very interesting. They had a great speaker, explained the whole service and everything. So it was well attended. So thank you for all the veterans, and thank you for their service. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cruzel. Mr. Peabody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr. Tighetz, I will get you a copy of the Facilities Condition Assessment Report. I'll get you a printed copy, and you can get your questions answered through that. The board did receive one recently. I made sure that each board member did receive one. There was some question whether or not it came over from the town. I happen to have it because I was working with Mr. Wincelia on getting that information. So we do have it. Share it with anybody. It is on our website, and it should be on the town website. Secondly, I attended the Prudence Pride Day over at Prudence Crandall, and it was pretty cool. The thing I really appreciated about it is the teachers don't run the assembly. The students do. Very orderly, very cool. A lot of fun. A lot of kids got recognized for good work they've done, academically, behaviorally, athletically. It was just fantastic. The Scouts were there, Girl Scouts were there, talking about their project coming up for their Silver Star, I believe. and bronze, sorry. I'll give them a silver one, what the hell. And they're going to go through this whole beautification thing. I'd urge parents and board members and other folks show up. What is the date for that, or did it go by already?
March 30th.
March 30th, okay. So just, so you know, put it on your calendar, see kids in action, and it's all good. Mr. Staley, I totally appreciate your comments. I work with children in this town. I've witnessed it in various youth organizations I've been in with youth soccer and Boy Scouts, and yeah, there's an issue there, but it's a cultural issue that we have to overcome. There's many organizations like the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, even soccer, baseball, that try to help kids get out of that funk. I disagree with cell phones being utilized during class time. My own kids were at Fermi when cell phones were given to them for reasons of communications with mom and dad, but we all know what happens. But we're very strict, and if we got a wind of that they were using them inappropriate in classroom, they lost their cell phone. You hold that up to a teenager, and guess what? They'll listen to you. Vinny, thank you for your continued research and work. I appreciate community discussion. I appreciate smart people who may not agree with me, who have an opportunity to change my mind. Not that I haven't made up my mind yet, but I just appreciate the efforts. We've worked together through the summer on getting information and whatnot. So thank you for your continued involvement. That's all I have. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Peabody. Ms. Ungary.
I want to thank you all for coming and expressing your opinion and your comments. I appreciate that, and I wanted to thank our high school representatives for their continued reports, and I like to hear what's going on over there. I just want to mention that a week from this Thursday, February 18th, they're having a legislative breakfast at the Capitol. And also February 27th, the First Readers is sponsoring a trivia contest. So I've put together a winning team. So I challenge the rest of you to put together a team and show up and give some good competition.
We'll do it, Tim.
It's February 27th.
Which is it? The First Readers.
It's the First
Trivia
Readers at Mount Carmel is where it's being held. All right. Okay, good luck.
Who beat you
Thanks,
last
that's
year?
it.
I have one question.
Thanks, Ms. Ungary.
You lost the year before that.
Mr. Ludwig.
I'll just be quick. Last meeting, I made a point of the PO orders. I'm assuming, I know the lifts, we have some good news, I think, there. Are we behind anywhere else? Are we, at least our business office is hopefully tracking, making sure. So any reports, yeah, I said I was going to ask every meeting, so I might as well get it out of the way now. I don't know if there's anything else that they need, that they've submitted and are waiting for, submission from the town.
I believe the lifts are the last thing that would complete the
Okay.
the initial move.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ludwig. Mr. Neville.
Just a couple of things. Pardon my voice, it's still not where it should be. Mr. Staley, thank you for all the work you do tutoring. We really appreciate it, and having been a middle school principal for years and years and years, we always appreciated the folks that came in and shared their talents with the kids. In terms of the behavior, I think it's certainly worth pointing out and having a discussion about. I haven't been in there this year, in and out of there. I was a lot more last year. But I'm sure after your comments here tonight, I would encourage the understudy superintendent here to at least have a conversation with the administrative team over there and talk about your perception of what the concerns. I think it's worth a thorough discussion. So I think that'd be the appropriate place to do it. I'm not going to come in and judge it. I just haven't seen it personally. But I think it's worthy of a discussion. In terms of the reports, I think Mr. Ray is going to get you a copy of that report, but I just looked at our website. It's there, and you can look at it and save yourself. You can get it as soon as you go home. But it's under board and the BOE, and it's under committees, and it's under the documents. And there's about 19 different documents there.
I don't know what a website is, so.
Okay. Then I guess the written copy will be better for you then, okay?
That's correct.
Not a problem.
I do paper.
You're going to get paper, that's fine. And that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Neville. Ms. Thurston. I'm all set. All right, very good.
Happy Fat Tuesday today, too, by the way.
Very good.
Very good.
No beads.
No beads.
I got the fat down, so.
That makes two of us. There are three of us. Thank you for all you do, Mr. Staley. We've discussed off and on as a board, depending who's sitting on the board, reviewing our electronic device policy. I know that it cuts either way. I think I agree with Mr. Neville. We need to take a sharp review of that again.
Definitely.
As far as the other issues that you brought to the table, I have visions of Jeff Spicoli ordering pizza for his classroom with Mr. Hand from Fast Time at Ridgemont High. And I'm hoping that it's not as dire as you made it sound, but we will look into it, and we'll get on top of that. Let's see, Mr. Ticas is taking care of, Mr. Wazliza is taking care of, Ms. Davis. Heritage Fair is on the 20th. I suggest that we all get out to the Heritage Fair. We are working to make it a truly spectacular event. Come on out. And yeah, here you go. And I think that brings it up for.
I just have one more comment. in.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to echo the comments about, that you gave Lori about the tables at the trivia contest. I had the pleasure of going last year with Ray, okay, and our wives were there, and we had a good time. It was a thoroughly good time, and I would encourage anybody to go out there, and I know they're looking for people to get tables or to join other people's tables, and it's not very expensive. It's a wonderful time and wonderful camaraderie there, and it's bipartisan. It's a non-issue. Even if I did lose to Ray by one vote, one question here.
It was on MASH too, by the way.
It was. I shouldn't have got that one wrong.
Maybe we should team up and just dominate the whole thing.
It's never good to dominate one thing. If we get more people there, it's more money for them, and there's all kinds of prizes and stuff, because my wife's going around town getting them and stuff like that. So it's a good time. It's had by all. If we can get out there, it's a good Saturday night out. I would encourage all of you to jump in.
Very good. Also, for housekeeping, I'm suggesting that we add one little item on here that has to do with the budget conversations coming in the future. I'm going to suggest that it be added under board committee reports. And we can slip it under the heading of leadership, because there's some other stuff. And as far as the Vinnie's comments and the Fermi reuse, I'm going to reserve that for the item agenda. So, like I said, I would like to add an item C, and that would be a leadership committee. I'm fairly certain we can get away with that. And
You want a second?
okay, all in favor? Yes, adding an item tonight.
12C.
12C, Leadership Committee.
Do you have to have a discussion, or
Do we need to suspend the rules, or do we just add that? Yeah, that's what I thought. Very good. And that's it for board member comments. Happy Fat Tuesday, everybody, and we'll continue on. Item number 10, unfinished business. There is none. Item 11, new business. Action, if any, regarding fiscal year 2016-2017 school calendar. Mr. Trezek.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Enclosed in your packet is an updated draft version of the 2016-2017 school calendar. If you recall from last meeting, Dr. Schuman shared with you a draft calendar per board policy. Has to present it to you in January, and the board has to vote on it by the conclusion of February. The following changes have been made since the last board meeting. November 23rd has now been added to the Thanksgiving break. January 25th, Staff Professional Learning Day has been changed to January 11th. The last day of school has been moved to June 14th, and the Enfield High School graduation date has been moved to June 20th. So there were just some minor tweaks from the last draft that you had seen at the previous board meeting. So per your policy, you'll need to adopt the school calendar, like I said, by the end of February, and therefore, if you decide to take any action deemed appropriately regarding the calendar, you can do so.
So moved.
I have a motion to accept the school calendar with noted changes. Motion has been made by Mr. Neville and seconded by Mr. Peabody. Any discussion?
Yeah, just, what's the explanation for the 23rd of November?
The 23rd of November is, there was a discussion at the previous leadership committee, I believe, they had with regards to the day before Thanksgiving. And it's typically, in some years, it's been a half day, other years, this year, as a matter of fact, because of the move, it was an actual full day off for students, so we essentially removed that day on the 23rd, has been added to the break, and that's why the last day of school has been moved to the 14th of June as opposed to the 13th that was on your
Okay,
previous
so
calendar.
it was at leadership, okay. It's fine with me.
Just throw a little bit more into that. Bottom line is that as a half-day, that, as you know, the busiest travel day of the year, a lot of kids just don't come to school. And a half-day is not the most productive academic day. It's better to have a productive academic day adding it on than to have that half-day. And so Tuesday would be the last one. I think last year was successful for other reasons, because we had to do it for the move. But it turned, people liked the idea, and it seemed to work better academically, and that's why we threw that in.
Any other discussion? None? Roll call?
Mr. Quizell?
For.
Mr. Peabody?
Affirmative.
Mrs. Ungary?
Yes.
Mr. Ludwig?
For.
Mr. Neville?
Yes?
Mrs. Thurston? Yes. Chairman Sirard?
Yes. Motion passes.
Motion passes.
There you go, you have a school calendar. Item 11B, future use of Fermi decision timeline. The last Board of Education meeting, we set a target date for a decision of March 8th, which is a regular Board of Education meeting. On February 4th, 2016, the Leadership Committee met to discuss logistics for the reuse decision on the Fermi Building. By unanimous consent of the committee, the following has been determined to be the next steps forward, pending consent from the consensus from the board. 1, 2 community conversations will be held in the Henry Barner General Purpose Room, one on the 17th of February and one on the 24th, both at 7 p.m. 2, the Board of Ed leadership will be conducting these events with the remaining Board of Ed members in attendance. 3, the committee will be asking for public opinions specifically on the future use. 4, the Board of Education will be using data obtained from independent sources that the town has collected that is, 1, current, and 2, has a verifiable provenance from the town. And it's what we've discussed in leadership, and that's where we stand. I suggest that we adopt this as our timeline, and so that everyone knows what we're using for information for our decision purposes, and also to make sure that the public has opportunity on 2 different days, both at 7 o'clock, to discuss. Further, in recognition of something that was brought to our attention, I'm going to suggest that we reach out to ETV and have those filmed. Any conversation? Do I have a consensus from the board? Well, I don't think we have. You could do a motion, or we could do consensus.
Yeah, you can do that, but let me just add one thing. We're going to, excuse me, thank you. They needed to hear me with my voice right now. But we're going to continue our discussion as a leadership committee. We didn't finish everything that we had tasked out to do that night in terms of specifying the data and outlining the issues that we wanted to have for the public, to present to the public. So, just so folks know that that's part of this. Our discussions are going to continue with leadership until we get to the 17th.
Motion to accept the proposed schedule for Fermi reuse.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Peabody, seconded by Ms. Thurston. Any other discussion? Show of hands? Well, that's the timeline. Item number 11C, action if any regard, oh, no, we're going to have to wait for an executive session for that. Moving on to board committee reports. Building committee.
Building committee did meet last Thursday. The lifts were discussed and was brought up. The D-wing is gone, so goodbye to the D-wing. And that's about it. Everything's still plugging along. Any other?
I've seen the correspondence. The lifts were supposed to be there this week, or maybe tomorrow's the day, I'm not sure. Can you give us an update on the lifts, if you could?
He's got the last email, and that they're supposed to be there tomorrow.
What I'm saying.
If We've been down this road, but that's the last one.
Well, I think we all of us agree that it needs to get resolved, and it's a serious issue. So if you can just let us know if it's not. I mean, I think we've seen a series of emails, and this has been a long, hot topic.
Yep.
And I think the kids are suffering along
Like
with it.
the building committee brought up last meeting, it's disgusting. It's just.
It's nobody's fault in the building committee. This is an issue with the manufacturer.
Yeah, it's the firm that they purchase from. It just.
Do you know, if they're on site, do you know how long it takes to install them?
I would say it'd be no more than a day. I mean, it's.
Because they have all the specs and everything like that they need, right?
Just lag them to the floor, and I'm for sure they're pre-wired already at this point, so it's just running electricity to them. And
How about the air compressor that
that's supposedly
seems
also
to be floating around
Yeah,
somewhere?
that supposedly also is on order, and that's-
Somewhere traveling across the country from
Yeah.
California, I think, isn't it?
unless pigeon carrier or something. I don't know.
I know, there's no more specifics on that, right? Okay.
No.
I'm not
but
trying
it's-
to put you on the spot.
No. Nobody's putting anyone on the spot. As soon as I hear something, I will pass it on to the whole board.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grisel. Policy Committee, Mr. Ludwig.
We met on February 1st. We discussed a number of items. I mean, calendar you guys saw today where we voted on. We also discussed a couple policies, again, about, possible gifts to the district. We didn't feel we needed to add another policy. We felt the current policies in place already take care of that. Again, we really don't want to be adding policies if not needed. I mean, I think we have enough. So we felt unanimously that, again, we didn't take any action, but if it comes up again in the future, we will certainly take it up. The bus issue, the snow bus, we are actually getting a quote to see what the cost will be for next year. And so we can go, once we get that, we'll move on from there. So it's been tabled, because we obviously don't have the financials just yet. And I think that was it. I think that was our policy meeting. So we got a few things done, and we're waiting on, some information on the cost, and then we'll be probably meeting every Monday, first of the month, for policy. That'll be our next meeting, will probably be around the first week of March. Any questions, or Walter, did I miss anything? No? That's it for policy.
Thank you, Mrs. Ludwig. Leadership Committee, which is item 12C. Leadership Committee meeting that happened on February 4th, 2016. One of the items that was there was to set budget discussions. Unfortunately, we did not get to that. There was just so much information on the table during that last Leadership Committee meeting that we have now rescheduled another Leadership Committee meeting to have a leadership budget conversation, and it has been set for Tuesday, the 16th of February, and the tentative time is 7 p.m. That will discuss some of try to set a schedule for whatever future budget discussions we'll have, and then we'll have something to present to the board. So that's where we're at with that. Item number 13, approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes from January 26, 2016.
So moved.
Motion to approve made by Mr. Kruzel, seconded by Mr. Neville. Any discussion, comments, or changes? None. Show of hands approval. Any abstentions? Minutes are approved. Approval of accounts and payroll. Do we have any? Nope. Thank you. Correspondence and communications. Do we have any? No. Audiences, second round of audiences. Go ahead, Vinny.
Hello again. Vinny West, Lisa 12 Dare Run. Use some fancy terminology to describe what the criteria was going to be for the information that you selected for the discussion. Can you describe that in layman's terms, what that criteria is? And then would the information that's going to be used for that selection be posted in a public place that we could review before the community conversation meetings?
Every piece of information that we would have the potential of using or will be using is currently listed on the Board of Education website.
Can you tell me which documents that will be?
That would predominantly be the facilities report, and then
Three or four different reports. There's 3 or 4 different reports, and there's a number of correspondence letters from a variety of people, some state, some other. I think there's like 15 different items in 2 different categories. It's under Board of Ed committees,
So-
and then go into,
So the ones that are listed out there now are the under that area are the only ones that are going to be used? Is there any others that we should be aware of?
As far as data, numbers, hard numbers, costs, capacities, that kind of stuff that has already been produced by independent sources from the town that are current. And that's when we were discussing this, we were talking data. Other information, whatever any board person wants to use to form their opinions, they can. This was specifically to talk about numbers.
Okay, just wanted to make sure there wasn't nothing new out there that I wasn't aware of.
Specifically about numbers, that's why
Okay.
I said data.
All right, thank you.
And the board has copies of everybody's input, no matter what it is, including all the emails that have been sent to us. So we have a plethora of information. But when we were talking about data, that's what we were talking about.
Great, thank you.
We have a need to go into executive session. Do I have a
Second.
motion made by Mr. Neville, seconded by
Walter.
Walter? Oh, yes, this is for matters related to collective bargaining, sorry. Any discussion? None? All in favor? We are currently in executive session. Thank you.
Gonna do it here or downstairs or what?